Welcome to Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living with your host, Rosalind Sadaka. Join Rosalind each week on a journey toward overcoming life's many challenges to achieve peace, empowerment, and positive transformation. It's time to relax, unwind, and transform your life with Rosalind Sadaka.
Hello, everyone. This is Rosalind Sadaka, and I want to welcome you to Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living on WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. Every week, I have wonderful guests to talk to about issues that are relevant and important in people's lives, and today is a very special opportunity for all of us to get a glimpse into a situation of how we can cope with some of the greatest challenges in life. The title of our program is From Fear to Forgiveness, How Letting Go of Anger and Resentment Can Open the Door to Love. And you will be exposed to an amazing story from a woman I have known for many years, I have tremendous respect for, and even more respect for now that she is sharing her remarkable story. So I want to introduce all of you to Mandy Bass. And Mandy is a coach's coach. She runs Priority Living Systems, a training and coaching company that she founded in 1966. And she works primarily with business owners who want to grow their business and lead a quality life free of worry and stress. Mandy's an international speaker with scores of television and radio show appearances to her credit and an inspirational force behind thousands of successful professionals. And she shared the stage with Wayne Dyer, Deepak Chopra, Greg Brayton, and other world-famous thought leaders. And her works include over a dozen audio programs, including Thin, Fit, Fabulous Forever, Ignite Your Secret Power, Forgiveness and Self-Appreciation, How to Do Self-Hypnosis, How to Grow a Successful Advisory Practice, and Life Purpose Connection. And Mandy is the creator of MindToSucceed.com, an online resource to help people unlock the power of their minds and remove blocks that stop them from being as happy, healthy, and successful as they can be. She's also a founder of the FreeSpeakerBureau.com, an online meeting platform for guest speakers and experts with over 4,000 members. And today we're going to be talking about a very personal experience in Mandy's life. So let's start by welcoming, thank you, Mandy Bass. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Roz. I'm really excited to be able to share my thoughts on this really important topic. Before I do that, though, and this is probably my mistake, I've started my company in 1996, and just so that people don't think, I am old, but I'm not that old.
What did I say?
I think 1966, so it was probably my mistake.
Well, I'm glad you corrected me about that. No. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Yes.
Otherwise, people will have an image of me sort of in my rocking chair.
Decrepit, right. And that is far from the case. Mandy's quite a vibrant young woman and a wonderful speaker and presenter. And Mandy had an extremely challenging experience earlier this year. So why don't you dive in and tell us about it, because this is your story and you are brave enough to share it with others and have a message that's so empowering for us all.
Well, it was February 7th of this year, 2016, when I had gone to my Zen group in the morning for my weekly meditation practice, and I had come back to my home office, and was working that day thinking that I was going to watch the Super Bowl that evening, and I was sitting at my desk just working away when I heard glass breaking on the other side of the house. And at first I thought it was my cats, and the glass, the sound of shattering glass is sort of like crescendo, just continued, and I realized that something rather big had been broken. And I waited a while thinking I didn't want to walk into a room where there was glass falling, imagining that perhaps my master bath mirror had come off the wall or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, I walked in. I finally went across and into my master suite, and a young man, about 6 foot tall, stepped out of my bathroom, and he was wild-eyed and obviously either having some type of a psychotic break or crazy on drugs. It turned out that he had taken some LSD the day before and was actually having a psychotic break. And he just began, I guess in his mind, he thought I was the devil. And he just started to brutally assault me. It just continued to hit me and kick me. And when I lay down on the floor, trying to just protect my organs, trying to, after my head was, cracked open, I had a broken arm when I finally got out of there. But it was a pretty brutal assault. And I don't want to go too much into the gory details of that, but finally when I was able to escape the house, and I can, I'm happy to, but it's really not the point of the story. When I was able to escape the house, it turned out that the police were already outside, and I live in a very quiet neighborhood where nothing happens. Mm-hmm. And the police were there, and what had apparently happened was he had come from another neighborhood. They had been chasing him, and he was an athlete. The kid he wasn't really a kid, he was 21 at the time. He was an athlete and on the track team at a local university, and he had been experimenting with drugs, and it must have been something really bad. But the police had been called to this other area where he lived, and he had seen the police and basically taken off, and they had chased him. So the police had actually seen him break into my house, and they were, by the time when I was outside, they were outside. I guess their protocol is not to try to follow somebody into a home. Eventually, I was taken to the hospital, and they sent in a canine unit and were able to subdue the young man that way. So that was what happened, and that was back in February. So I don't know if you want me to kind of continue with the whole story or...
Well, yeah, give us a brief... Obviously, you had some recuperation period.
Oh, yeah, no, I had a broken strong arm. Yeah, I had a broken strong arm. I had concussion. The pictures of me are pretty awful. I was black and blue all over pretty much for 4 or 5 months. I tried to work as much as I could just to keep, my bills paid, I guess. But I was really struggling. My right arm is my strong arm, and that was broken. But I suffered from PTSD, and it was a very difficult time. And obviously, my ribs were bruised. My face was terrible. I couldn't go out for quite a long time. But I was really lucky to be alive.
Yes.
Yeah. So I was lucky to be able to get out of the house. What had happened was I was trying to escape, and he pulled me back into the house as I was trying to get out the door, and he picked up a really heavy chair that I have and tried to hit me over the head with it, and I blocked using my right arm, and that's how my arm broke, but it saved my life.
Wow. So you not only had the recovery from the physical bruising, but obviously tremendous emotional and mental and spiritual recovery at the same time to be able to make some sense of what happened to you and decide how you were going to move ahead in life when I imagine you were dealing with fear that you had never experienced before and a lot of other emotions that were new to you.
Yeah.
So what was that like?
Well, it was very traumatic. Luckily I do, I do, in the business that I'm in, I had learned some tools that I started implementing immediately in terms of using controlled relaxation and other types of tools to help me get through, to help me cope with some of the effects on an immediate basis. But I did get some, PTSD trauma therapy just to help, because I wake up in the middle of the night and I would be having these flashbacks, and I kept on, I was afraid to be in the house because this is where the attack happened, but then I was afraid to go out because all of a sudden I had lost my sense of security and safety. And
yes.
so everything was traumatizing when events would come on, and just so happened that we had a lot of events around the same time where there were attacks in different places, terrorist attacks, and that just sort of like doubled down on the trauma, so I was very, very sensitive to anything. But I live alone, so it was a challenge as far as coping with a broken arm and getting things, but I have so many wonderful friends and wise people that know and care about me, and a lot of people gave me some really, at the time I didn't realize how supportive it was, because you're in a state of shock, but you don't know how to cope, but people gave me some really wise words, and I really decided quite early, even when dealing with all that trauma, that I was very aware that this situation could change my life in a really negative way if I allowed it. Like, I didn't want this to become what my life was about. I could feel myself.
Let me stop you right here, because we have to take a real brief break. The title of our show with Mandy Bass is From Fear to Forgiveness: How Letting Go of Anger and Resentment Can Open the Door to Love. So obviously Mandy had to go through quite a transformation to get to the other side of this situation, and that's what she's going to share with us when we get back. This is Rosalind Sadaka. You're listening to WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network, and the show is Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living, and today our guest is Mandy Bass. We'll be right back.
You're listening to WGSN-DB, Going Solo Network, Singles Talk Radio Channel, where we take a lighthearted and candid approach to discussions on the journey of relationship loss, divorce, parenting, being single, relationships building, dating, and yes, sex. Join our listeners and begin living your best life.
Hello, everyone. This is Rosalind Sadaka back again with Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living on WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. We're talking today with Mandy Bass about an extraordinary experience that happened to her that transformed her life. Mandy, why don't you continue and tell us about that, because that's the part that I think is such an important lesson and metaphor for all of us. We may not have all had similar to yours, but all of us go through situations that throw us and knock us out, and we have to bounce back again. So tell us how you did that and what you've learned.
Yeah, so I decided that I was not going to allow this event to ruin my life, and I made that decision early on. There's a place where we all get to where at some point it's comforting to have a lot of people giving you encouraging words and where you are the victim, but that wasn't a role that I want to play in my life, and it's not that's not who I want to be. And I think we always have to ask ourselves, who do we want to be? And some days we make better decisions than others, because some days we just don't have all our emotional resources available to be anything else other than upset or depressed. But a lot of times, if we stop to ask ourselves that question, we do have those resources available to decide that that's not the way we want to live. And I came to really understanding that, and I mean, this is not something new to anybody, but really at a deep emotional level, how much holding on to anger and resentment hurts you physically, it hurts you emotionally, it hurts you in every single way. Obviously I was really, really angry and frustrated and upset that I was in the situation. There's no reason that this young man chose my house. It was a random thing. I'd never seen him before. It was just a crazy incident. And I could spend the rest of my life being upset and angry and resentful about what had happened to me, or I could use it as a way for deep, deep healing. And that's what I chose to do. I chose to really look at everything in my life, look at the way I'd been thinking, look at the way I'd been handling things in my own life, and trying to, as best as I could, let go. And I started off trying to let go of little things. For me, the hardest thing for me to let go of, and I don't know about you, Roz, but for me, some of the hard stuff that was hardest for me was to forgive myself, to let go of things that I had done, bad decisions I had made. I would be really, really hard on myself. And so I started to notice that. I started looking at that. I started working with areas in my life where I felt unworthy, with grudges that I had against people, anger and resentment that I had against people that I'd been holding on to. And I started working with the small things first, and realizing that every single time I was able to let go of some kind of grievance, some kind of anger, some kind of resentment, even if it was somebody who cut me off in traffic or something like that, it released me just a little bit. Because when we're upset with people and we hold that in us, like we're playing the story in our mind. There's nothing that other person who hurt us is experiencing. Somehow we think that if we hold on to stuff, it makes absolutely no sense, right? It's totally illogical. We think that if we let go, then somehow we're condoning their behavior, and that's not it at all. If we let go, we're the ones that benefit, because we let go of that emotional baggage that we're carrying.
And the only one who's feeling the pain is us.
Exactly.
So we're doing it to ourselves, and we're holding ourselves hostage until we get that understanding.
And we're beating ourselves up over and over again. And what I realized was, as a metaphor, that the way that this man had beaten me was nothing compared to what I had done previously in beating myself up for some of the things that I had done or said. And so, I took that on as, this is, I need to really work on, healing that. And for the last 6 months or so, and I did not come out with a story. Very, very few people, only, a small number of people actually knew about what had happened. Because quite frankly, and this will make no sense to you probably or a lot of your listeners, is that I had a lot of shame around it.
It makes total sense. I think that's a very natural response, but I'm glad you're addressing it, because it's so human, and we so appreciate your talking about that.
Yeah, I for years I had sort of promoted this idea that we create what we focus on, and our outward life is often a projection of whatever it is that's going on inside of us. And so I was looking at that. Now, I'm not saying that everybody who gets into these situations, or that I necessarily brought this on myself or whatever, but I did see the parallel between that sort of that idea, and it motivated me to really do some deep healing. And for the last 6 months or so, I've really done a lot of emotional and spiritual work, and just working on healing myself from the inside out and letting go of the anger. And so I think that a few months after the event, I had some friends, beautiful friends, come over and do a spiritual healing on my house. And during that, we had a little time where we were meditating and praying, and during that time, I really felt that I was able to let go of the anger and resentment that I was feeling for this young man. And I let go in that time of the anger and resentment for him. But of course, I still felt in other ways there was still a lot of baggage I was carrying. And I arranged for a meeting through my lawyer and his attorney. We arranged for a meeting to take place at my lawyer's office. And
wow.
What I was really planning on doing, and everybody thought I was crazy, including my attorney, thought I was crazy for wanting to meet face-to-face with this person. And I know you'd come, I don't know if you remember, Roz, but sometimes in my seminars I talk about the takalosh. Do you ever remember me talking about the takalosh? Well, the takalosh, I grew up in South Africa, and the takalosh is a figure or it's like a boogeyman. And I learned years ago that when you have something that you really fear, most of the time it's really just your imagination that's creating an illusion that you really are fearing. It's something that's never going to happen, or something that's bigger than life, are the things that we truly fear. And I realized that if I wanted to break through this fear, then I needed to come face to face with him. I needed to see him. I needed to look and see what this really was. And so I arranged this meeting. And
Mandy, I'm going to have to stop you here, and we're going to have to do a second session on this because your story is just so enveloping, and I don't want to cut you off, but our time is coming to a close at the moment. So I'm going to ask you to let everyone know how they can contact you to learn more about you and your services, and then we will do a part 2 on this interview so we can follow up on the story because it is so engrossing.
Thank you, Roz.
So tell us, how can people find you?
Well, probably the best and easiest way is to go to mindtosucceed.com. And on there you can actually read some of my articles, and you actually have the story up there, Healing the Divide. And you can contact me through that website. That's probably the best and easiest way.
And that's mindtosucceed.com?
Yes.
Wonderful. Well, I'm going to close our session out for now, and then we are going to continue this interview with Mandy Bass because I know all of you are going to be eager to hear the rest of her story and the wisdom that she's gleaned through it. So this is Rosalind Sedaka with WGSN-DB, the Going Solo Network. The show is Divorce, Dating, and Empowered Living. And we thank you for listening today and hope you're going to tune in again to hear part 2 of Mandy Bass's inspiring story, From Fear to Forgiveness, How Letting Go of Anger and Resentment Can Open the Door to Love. Thank you all for listening.